The New England Patriots offensive struggles have been well documented this entire season, but they were really exploited on Sunday night against the Texans. I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Evan Lazar. Tom Brady visibly frustrated multiple times throughout the season, but especially so on Sunday night because without Julian Edelman, without James White, there's really no one that he has a really strong chemistry connection with. And is that blame on the front office for not doing more to get him some more experienced players?
Well, I think the blame really comes down to they lost Rob Gronkowski in the offseason. Did they do enough really to replace an all-pro tight end? Probably not. Now, drafting N'Keal Harry in the first round, you got to give them that one. They tried to draft a first-round receiver. It just hasn't taken to quite yet. The injury obviously being a big part of that. I also think they probably would have double-dipped at receiver if they felt the need to draft Jacoby Myers on day 3, but he ended up slipping to them in undrafted free agency, so they just went that route instead. So they added 2 guys, rookies, that I think that they were believed in strongly. Then they got Josh Gordon back, and it just didn't work out. Then they got Antonio Brown in the building, and that certainly didn't work out. So they had a lot of swings and misses at receiver that I don't necessarily blame them for all of them, right? I think that it's a lot of issues kind of adding up there at that one spot. Where I do kind of put more blame on them is at tight end. From 2010 till now, the Patriots have drafted 3 tight ends in the Rob Gronkowski era, right? They haven't drafted a tight end before the 5th round. They've drafted 3 tight ends on day 3 of the draft: A.J. Derby, Lee Smith, who's now a Buffalo Bill, and Ryan Izzo, who's still on the team but is MIA right now, right? So they really didn't invest in the future of the tight end position. And when you looked at Rob Gronkowski's career, and granted, it's difficult to go and draft a day 2 tight end when you have an all-pro tight end ahead of it and you have so many holes in roster spots to fill elsewhere. I get that having a good second tight end is kind of a luxury position, not necessarily a given. But you look at Rob Gronkowski's career, you had to kind of figure that at some point retirement was coming sooner rather than later, and you certainly had to think about his injury history and the fact that you could lose that guy at any point in time. And they filled the gaps with Dwayne Allens and Martellus Bennett's and Scott Chandler's and all these veteran players that were really 1 or 2 year players instead of fully investing in a draft pick at that spot. Could they have had a tight end over a Damian Harris? Could they have had a tight end over a Yadni Kajust? I think these are all fair questions to ask.
And I think there's a lot of questions about what happened with Josh Gordon. That whole situation was a little fishy. He seems to be doing well in Seattle, so that was strange. And then people have brought up why trade away Demaryius Thomas, but at the time they thought they had Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon. So there's a lot of questions surrounding this wide receivers group. There hasn't been a lot of continuity start to finish. But what could the front office have done differently? You talked about tight ends, but receivers-wise, maybe to make the offensive coordinator Tom Brady's job just a lot easier.
Well, I think that adding a veteran in the offseason and starting with a veteran from that point on and not a guy, like if they had gotten Mohamed Sanu, for example, in April, instead of getting him in October or November, that's a big difference of the lead up to the season. You have the full training camp, you have OTAs, you have mini camp to really get that player integrated into the system, into a very difficult system. Maybe arguably the hardest system to learn in the entire NFL on offense. So getting a guy in here in the off season and really investing in a guy in that point of the season rather than doing it when the season was already in full swing. I think the one name that is probably going to haunt the Patriots a little bit is Adam Humphries. Not being able to close the door on the Adam Humphries thing. Adam Humphries only has 37 catches and about 400 yards right now for the Titans. He's not been a world beater for Tennessee by any means. And Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, their young players, are really starting to emerge there. And he's kind of getting fallen by the wayside. If they had closed the door on Adam Humphries, I think that would have been a big deal for New England. If they had closed the door on a Cole Beasley, who's now in Buffalo having a very strong season for them, those were 2 guys I think that they might look back on in the free agency period and say, we could have had him and we really didn't push hard enough.
This Patriots Press Pass is brought to you by betonline.ag. Head to their website, enter promo code CLNS50 to receive your welcome bonus. For all the rest of our Patriots content, head to our website at clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel at CLNS Media.